let's aim for 90 minutes. I won't clock Coco, I won't put, but like still, let's aim for 90. But yeah, you can chat about stuff. We can start. Like, I won't just say hello, whatever. Hello.
It's Nolan. You are being pretty ambitious if you are thinking that you can
Oh yeah,
stop it within 90.
I had this amazing idea, which amazing also translates to being cringy as fuck, is that we can begin with Khatam and then start with hello,
No,
Exactly.
no,
You stole
no.
my words. You stole my
hello.
words.
We are
You
not
stole my
that
words. I
talented.
was
We are
just going
not
to
that
say.
talented. I am sorry. We are really not that talented.
Or we can release this podcast in a backward style.
That too will
In
be
a-
too experimental, I feel.
Yes.
I mean, this guy loves to experiment. He is going to drop
Just chop the
bombs this
podcast into
time.
like bits. यहाँ
Yeah,
पे
yeah,
कुछ है,
yeah.
वहाँ पे कोई sentence है.
Uh,
Mm.
No, let's begin with Khatam, no? And then we can go
Okay.
wherever.
Good
I'll
night,
improve
guys.
this basically.
Good night,
yeah,
guys. It's been a pleasure to
Thank
talk
you
to
so
you.
much for listening.
Yeah,
And if
yeah,
you want
yeah,
to follow
See
us,
you in the next episode.
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Okay. So hello. Welcome to today's podcast. If you're staying with us after our terrible joke, then we are here meeting for the first time to discuss basically a three-part series on Christopher Nolan, the director who has the most fandom in the world after Marvel, I guess, and DC,
Yeah.
whatever. Like, he's one of our blockbuster authors. I think alongside, I think he's the only one who's sort
He's the
of
only one.
left.
He's the only one.
Quentin Tarantino's the other one who I know makes films and they actually make money based on just his name. Spielberg's passed that ship, and then Scorsese's films don't make money also.
It's
So
more like a brand.
yeah,
More
yeah,
like a
so
brand.
definitely. But I mean, I would say mostly a brand. I like also like. Anyways, so the voices you are hearing, we are beginning with like a chronology already, I feel. Anyways,
I hate the fact that I use that term. Anyway.
yeah, but it's a common whatever. So the people who are there in this episode and might reoccur and reappear in the other ones, changing on like depending on which ones decide to like drop out and like drop in. So the first one we have is our regular Amartya Acharya, who initiated this episode along with me, I feel. And we both will probably be there for.
There is an irregular Amartya Acharya also who is not coming into this episode. Anyway.
Okay. Yes. Then we have Varun Bhakay, who appeared with us in the Fablemans episode and the Noir episode before. So he is returning to discuss all things Nolan. And we have a new guest with us also, Prithwish Roy, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, Roy.
Okay. Because there are so many names, I'm just taking notes on Nolan things. My mind is a jumble already, I feel. But Prithvish is joining us for the first time. Prithvish, would you like to introduce yourself, please, to our listeners?
Okay. So what kind of introduction? It's like a
Any
backward
give me
introduction?
Not backward.
not
Let's see how much of a genius you are. Backward.
Okay, it's been a pleasure to talk to you all.
Yep.
I'm currently pursuing MBA and I did chemical engineering, but my passion has always been for cinema ever
Yep.
since I've been a child.
Yeah.
So, and my exposure to Nolan, like to be very honest, my exposure to international content has started from Nolan. Like
Yep.
any other Indian nerd guy who's like, and it obviously started from the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to join in the podcast to discuss about films and shows, and thanks to Amartya.
Oh,
He
absolutely.
has,
You should
yes,
tell us.
kudos.
I mean, we'll be
Yeah,
happy
yeah.
to have newer people, newer perspectives. That's always
Yeah,
been
yeah,
something that
yeah, yeah.
we
And
like to
I would
champion.
love to be a part of this community from
Yeah.
here on. So
Our
yeah,
pleasure.
and yeah,
Absolutely a pleasure.
and
But
yeah.
no, but
So
you set
there,
us up well in the sense of this whole idea of, Nolan
mm,
being someone who I think for most cinephiles, like at least people who are into films outside of Bollywood now, or Bollywood or Indian cinema in
people who
general,
are not
sorry.
cinephiles as well,
Yeah,
all
exactly.
of them have watched, all of them has watched
Yeah,
Nolan films, and that's why I see Christopher Nolan is not a director; he's more of a brand because
yeah,
because Oppenheimer because जो star attraction है वो Christopher Nolan ही है.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's the star of this film,
Yeah.
not Cillian Murphy or anybody. Because when
Yeah.
that from Christopher Nolan that title
Mhm.
card shows up in the theater, it erupted. Like, so
Yeah.
I'll tell you one event when I watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 last month. It was
Yeah.
in Hyderabad. So I watched in, like, it's actually called the tallest screen in Asia. It's called Prasad's. So when the Oppenheimer trailer showed up, people are so crazy over there. They cheered on every other actor, and they
Yeah.
cheered they even cheered for Matt Damon, who has no superhero background or anything. They were so crazy for him, and they
Yeah.
cheered the most when the name Christopher Nolan showed up. So I think, yeah, it goes back to for all of the people, and also it ties up to the fact that Christopher Nolan has made 3 remarkable movies about one remarkable comic book character.
Yeah.
So it has been the Bible for all the nerdy superhero fans who got introduced to their
Amartya is
love.
lifting his
Yes.
hands up in joy.
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah.
No, but that's very true, and I feel now, unfortunately, with greater fandom comes greater toxicity. Is that a new
Toxicity,
motto?
yes.
Maybe I will
Are we
go
going
for
to
that.
get into the Nolan toxicity now?
No, but there
Please
is,
let
right?
us
So
not.
no, we are not discussing it because we are discussing mainly his films, and our first 3 selections for this episode are his first 3 films, which are sort of very much before the time he got into big sort of studio cinema in many senses. And the 3 films we've decided to exclude from discussion of all our things is actually the Batman films. It's not being superhero bias or whatever from my end. It was just a conscious decision on the fact that we can only record a number
Believe
of
me,
episodes.
if it was superhero bias, I wouldn't be joining this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Amartya could alone handle the 3 Dark Knight, 3 whatever Batman films. Anyways, the point is that we want to discuss his other films also. I think his first 3 especially are fun to discuss because I think they are in some ways or the other the least discussed, the least seen. Even I feel, at least following and Insomnia are the least seen. Memento has gained a enormous cult following. I feel deservedly so, and yeah, we want to discuss those films today, and I think we would love to see more like sort of engagement even from the listeners on the end of which films of Nolan did they sort of start like I think which is the introduction is probably, as Prithwish said, is the Batman films. I feel those sort of allow people a gateway into his other work, but I feel so much of his work is otherwise linked. I think it's expanded because of the other blockbusters that have become popular: Inception, Interstellar, all of these, which we are going to be discussing also. So I think, but humble beginnings, I think, and we begin with his first film, first narrative feature. Sorry.
Your eyes drift across a crowd of people, and they slowly stop and fix on one person, and all of a sudden that person isn't part of the crowd anymore. They become an individual, just like that. Just became irresistible.
So you followed women?
I followed anybody. I just wanted to see where they went, what they did. It was supposed to just be completely random. You would never follow the same person twice. That was the most important rule. That was the one that I broke first. That's when the trouble started.
I got burgled yesterday.
What's it feel like being broken into?
Following, which is his 1998 feature. It's on Criterion Channel if anyone wants to watch. It's on other places also, and it also has a linear cut, which Amartya reminded me of, which I need to watch.
Which Varun saw that. Varun's reaction was hilarious.
Yeah.
Varun is like, why? Why
There's
did you make a linear cut?
There's a linear cut of Memento also, which I think is pointless.
That I know about.
Which I think will be pointless. But
Okay, I didn't
anyways,
know about this. I didn't know about this. Where is
No,
this
but-
available?
the linear cut for Memento, I probably is with a Blu-ray or something. But Amartya said that the linear cut of Following is available on Criterion itself, right?
Yeah.
But this linear cut of Memento is very much like that time when Ted Turner's company was doing, all those colorizations that were not authorized.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to
It's
sell
like
more.
that. Yeah.
It's
Because
completely
they're-
unnecessary.
No, they're like you have the YouTubers, right, who will explain even the most basic of films. They're like, let's listen to an explainer of
Hi.
a rom-com. You don't need an
You are
explanation.
describing my job.
You're not a YouTuber. He didn't mention
You're not a
writer.
YouTuber.
I'm just saying, you're basically describing my job.
YouTubers out there are describing the end of Fast and Furious 10. What are you talking about? A franchisee where everybody dies and
Comes back.
You
respawns.
know,
Comes back, yeah.
to be
Response
fair
is a good term.
to dampen down the whole Nolan ka also, Nolan's films, this is my, I guess, recurring criticism. I think everyone's will be, his films explain themselves a lot also.
Yes.
But anyways, we are going to following is our, and this is Amartya, we forgot to mention, but this is also Noir part 2, right? Our
Exactly.
episode we did on Noir, because all three first films of Christopher Nolan are essentially noir variations in some sense.
Which is also something I miss, honestly, now
Yeah,
in this current Nolan, because if
Hmm.
you see his three films, I think if you are a noir lover,
Hmm.
you will actually realize that how much of a lover of noir he really is.
Hmm.
Because while watching, following the two filmmakers who I was reminded of was surprisingly, I think unsurprisingly, one was Hitchcock.
Yeah.
The other was surprisingly Kubrick.
He's had it. Like, I think Kubrick has had a big influence. I mean, 2001 has, and that's in Interstellar. You see the block.
No.
Basically, as the
I think
inspiration.
Kubrick because if anybody has seen Kubrick's The Killing,
It's got a similar vibe. I've seen
Yeah,
bits of
Yeah,
it,
yeah, it's
Yeah.
actually.
You have these lofty comparisons. I was thinking of Darren Aronofsky's Spy because of its grungy look.
Similar time though. They came out, I think,
Similar
around the
time, yes.
98
Similar time,
Apparently,
right?
apparently, people said that Aronofsky was the more gifted filmmaker out of that entire batch.
I really like Aronofsky's films, except The Whale.
Except The Whale, yes.
Yes, but anyways, not to Aronofsky, but so basically, following, for people who aren't familiar with the film Following, is about I've written snarky plot descriptions for all three of them. So can I read those out, or do you want me to go with the official line? So, okay, you mentioned Hitchcock. So, Following is a loner writer rear windows his way through darkened, dilapidated London, only to find out that he's the one being rear windowed by the one he is rear windowing.
I did not expect this to go full porn, but okay.
Anyways, officially, the film is about a young writer living in London who basically is a voyeur, and he tries to look into people's other lives to find find sort of inspiration for his novels, but it becomes an obsession, and he gets entangled in this whole mystery which he didn't think he would ever get entangled in. I think it's a very sort of classic premise, almost, of like what you would get of, again, Hitchcock is, I think, the great
It's extremely Hitchcockian, yeah. Extremely Hitchcockian.
But what do you guys all think of it? Initial thoughts. You can start with Varun, and then we can go. I know because Varun mentioned to me that he's a big Following fan. So
I discovered Following during the first lockdown, so 2020, right? And it was, everybody is waiting for Tenet, and then he's like, I won't release the film just like that.
Oh yes.
I was like, yeah, let's then catch up on the work that he's done and we've not watched.
Yeah.
And I was surprised by how much of, it's got a sort of razor blade, Ustra, the barber's.
Yes.
It's got that kind of vibe, It's very sort of, I'll cut you, I'll do something like that. It's very much that sort of geographical location.
Biting cynicism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that because at that point I'd not seen either Memento or Insomnia. So I was more used to sort of Nolan's work being set in big places and stuff like that. The closest that I thought Following came to another of his works was The Prestige, parts of Victorian London. But the fact that he would take such an innocuous sort of character and a setting and do something, do his, time thing again. In fact, now that I think of it, it reminds me of a little of also Edgar Wright's first film, A Fistful of Fingers. So essentially, both filmmakers are trying out the tricks they have become famous for.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like taking a well-established genre and trying to add their own spin to it.
Yeah.
And Following is sort of, it's also very entertaining, but it's very funny in places.
He's, he was, at least, I'm not sure is, but at least he was a pretty funny writer. At least in Memento, he's very funny, I
He's
think.
very funny, yeah.
But
I think he became more self-serious or portentous later on. But yeah,
okay, I think the self-seriousness is there kind of consistently in
but the
all of them.
portentousness came much later, right?
Maybe.
Because all of
Yeah.
his blockbusters carried an air of self-importance anyway. Which,
Yeah.
granted, you have to, but
Yeah.
you get the idea. But yeah, I think the
Amartya, you
humor
go
is
ahead,
pretty
and
funny.
then Prithwish can.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think when my liking for the following stems more from the inspirations, because you can clearly understand that this guy loves noir. He loves it. He absolutely loves it, and he loves British noir. There's a clear sense, right? Not just because of the language. There's a clear sense over the, because that Kubrick comparison is very, very, very apparent, and the intransigent amount of shadows, the shots
He
of
shot it,
doors.
by the way. It's
Yeah,
shot
yeah,
by
yeah.
He
him.
shot it.
That's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
only film of his I think he's shot, like, at least in the narrative features.
The shot of doors and everything. So all of that, it makes me realize that how much of this guy, and also his observational skills, because it's very much grounded in Nolan trying to explain human condition to you. And he's also very expositional in a way, because his dialogues are very wordy. You can see it here
Yeah.
also.
Oh yeah. It's full on, like,
Full
what
on.
is my film about? Let me tell
What is my
them
film
in
about? What
full
am I
detail.
doing? Yeah,
Over
what my
eager, I
character is
thought,
doing.
like
Over
pretty
eager
over eager.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is fine if you can
Yeah.
write it down well enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel exhausting. It actually feels funny, because it's like, okay then. I mean, sure man, you are arrogant, but you get the idea. It's like a character. The
He's
character itself is arrogant.
he's calling out the guy a
Exactly.
fair bit also. Like
Yeah, exactly.
the weird thing is the young man looks a bit like Nolan.
Yeah.
Like with his hair
Bob,
falling down,
right?
especially.
Yeah,
If you've seen a Nolan
everything.
photo, and like if you see the actor who plays him, I'm pretty sure he modeled it on himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's almost like he's calling himself out, which is great. Nolan being self-aware. That's nice. So you get the idea anyway, but also like Varun said, because he is a first-time filmmaker, any first-time filmmaker would like to put his own stamp, right? So the stamp here is the stamp which he's trying to put everywhere, and which is always going to be his interest moving forward in each and every movie of his, playing around with time. So you can play around with time either from a narrative sense or from a screenplay structure sense. Here he's doing it with a screenplay structure sense. It's a question whether it works or not. I don't think for me it works, because it feels completely unnecessary. But that experimentation is there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the narrative chosen needn't require that, but the experimentation is still there.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating in a way. Which is fascinating.
That's a good description of it. Prithvish?
Actually, the one thing I was going to say, Amurtada already said that this guy loves noir. When I first watched Memento, I mean, back in when I was rewatching his films for Dunkirk, that's when I got introduced to following. And one thing I noticed, one significant thing that made all of his three films very restless is the quick cuts he had in one particular scene. He had very restless cuts in between just one particular scene, like a man keeps one knife and then he takes another gun and he keeps and replaces all the
bullets,
does the divisions in bullets in Insomnia. I noticed this one scene, and this is evident in following as well. He in one particular scene there are at least 9 to 10 cuts. And it's like it's going to like it's done. I can feel the effort he has, the meticulous effort he used to do in his films. He used to be on a very grounded level, and it feels like a student film who is like very passionate for his films. He wants to root for the genre he always loved for. So I think following is a good homage to his introduction to his journey as a filmmaker. And I think I don't have much of too much of opinions or anything significant to talk about following, except the editing thing. and also the way he shot the films, like the frames he captured there, it felt very claustrophobic.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
felt very, very claustrophobic. Just
Yeah.
like Varun said, it's just like it reminded me so much of Aronofsky's Spy. It's so grungy, it's so claustrophobic. It makes you feel not really good. And I was actually feeling uncomfortable watching Following because for a guy who has watched, who's when I think of Nolan, I think of larger than life
Yeah.
science fiction gimmicks and extravagant films.
Yeah.
But for a guy who is making a very grungy noir films,
Yeah.
which it's kind of making claustrophobic,
Yeah.
and alongside the editing and the framings he has done. So yeah, I think it's good. It's a decent film. It's a
Yeah.
decent start for his filmography. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's all I can say for now.
No, you're right. I mean, I feel it's very much, it feels a little bit like a first film, which
Exactly.
I think is not even a problem that much. Like, I mean, I think my Amartya kind of voiced my main problem with the film is the structure of it feels very much like, you can see the filmmaker putting his stamp by showing you how he's putting his stamp rather than melding
It's
that,
not effortless. It's not
he will
effortless.
do, I think, in his next film.
Hmm.
But in this, it feels very much like I might have actually preferred the film if he took a linear approach, which is why I was like, I might need to watch the linear cut. And I mean, because I feel sometimes, the narrative structure restricts the sort of characters in the film. Like, they feel very much like pawns. And this is a common criticism of his films, that there's an emotional sterility to all of his films, which I don't think I buy in, because I have some exceptions to it, like some major exceptions to it, I feel. So I think that, but regardless, I mean, it feels like a solid homage more so than, what I think Varun also said about Edgar Wright. I mean, I think this is a better film than Fistful of
Definitely,
Fingers.
definitely.
Fingers
Fistful of
is
Fingers,
like,
you can see that wooden horse at one point,
yes,
they can't conceal that.
Yeah. The
Fistful of
roughness in
Fingers is very, very amateurish. It's very
Yeah, but it's
amateur. It
also
feels
very,
like
it's very funny in the way that a young Edgar Wright would have been.
Exactly.
yeah.
But also here's the thing, right? Like Prithvi said, that editing, like you can understand that this is a guy who is very interested in doing that. Like his editing, why am I saying that he's playing with time? Because when he's doing those restless editings, you can see that he's doing those restless editings in a specific scene. It's like he's playing with that scene, he's playing with perspectives of that single scene. You can see that, and then you will see the movie where he exactly perfected that scene. That movie is The Dark Knight. There is a scene. The score playing during that scene is called Aggressive Expansion. That scene is when the Joker actually enters Bruce Wayne's apartment.
Okay.
The party is happening. He's entering the apartment. The car comes, the judge's house, the car explodes. Card showers.
So is this basically like a parallel editing thing?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
He perfects it in Dark Knight, because if you watch it in Dark Knight, it's immaculate. Immaculate. The score is playing perfectly. The editing is done perfectly.
Got it.
You see that here, you will realize that he's doing it. I think he reaches it almost in Insomnia. In that last scene, there is a
there is a wonderful I get what you mean. Yes, but regardless, I mean, I also want to flag up David Julian's score, which I really liked in Following, and didn't notice it the previous time I watched it. And
reminds me of Dunkirk.
Exactly. Like, David Julian did pretty solid work, I think, in this and Memento. Insomnia, I'm less crazy about. But David Julian's score, like, there's this traditional, where Nolan's films have that long string sort of noise to it. Like, it's like contemplative, like the character's thinking, and then the sound sort of goes like that. And then there's this
discordant noise. Like,
I love the discordant thing in this, like, where it's like almost like a train is breathing up and down. It feels like that, and it's very, like, again, adds to the claustrophobia of it. But yeah, I mean, I think it's very difficult to talk about this film without sort of being like, damning it with faint praise almost, I feel like, rather than anything else. Because one of the things I noted was that there's that eagerness to tell the audience about what he's thinking, which also sometimes translates to arrogance, because Following can also mean that, are you following what I'm doing?
Are you following what I'm saying? Yeah.
Which I'm like, I am. So I don't need to have like that condescending attitude.
But then again, you realize that this is a student film, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
So inherently that arrogance is always going to come, right? Because
absolutely.
When you're creating a movie, you're always the smartest guy because this thing came out of your head. Not realizing that other people can understand it. You need to chill out.
No, I mean, because see, this film has so many like it has like the whole idea of voyeurism, the whole idea of breaking into someone's life is very. I mean, I find it fascinating, and like I think
it's the home invasion. It's the home invasion.
But the whole idea of breaking into someone's life, I think, is there. Like I feel I've seen films in which when you do that, you really feel, yourself being like, emotionally challenged or moved by it. And I feel in this, that's very scattered. Like that doesn't feel whatever.
It's a violation in a way. It's a violation in a way, right? If you're going in, if you're doing a home invasion, it's more of a violation. There was a Bangladeshi film which came out 2 years ago, I think, called Noir or Animal.
Yeah.
It's horrifying. I mean, you can say that it's a very shock-exploitative movie, but that was like a horrifying look at what home invasion can actually do.
Got it.
But
but I was thinking more on the level of that sort of conceptual, how I mean, in Inception, he's breaking into people's lives, and I remember it having a bigger effect on me. Yes. I've seen this documentary called The Imposter, which I recommend to everyone all the time, which is about breaking into someone's life, and the way the director plays with time there, you kind of are conned into thinking the way the conner is conning the people. So that's the sort of level of, in immersion I feel you can get when you get really confused or caught up in a narrative, which I think is lacking in here. But again, it's the first film thing, which you can see it. And I mean, if you want to understand what his films are about, as we've explained, that it's about time, but it's also like, if you want to understand it's about voyeurism, he says he was born a peeping Tom. All the things he kind of always tells you what it's about. Like I'm not like, I think if you've seen enough films, you start to get a hang of
of course the Powell and Pressburger.
I was thinking, is that a Powell and Pressburger homage?
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll weigh in here about what you guys are saying about the narrative. I found that, and this is what I felt after first watching it, because I'm not one for rewatching films. I very rarely do it. And in fact, if you notice my letterbox, I didn't rewatch.
Which is okay. I have to I rewatched Insomnia the third time, and I am 100% sure if we discuss it another time, I'm not rewatching it. So
So, but I felt that the denouement here, which is the big reveals, so to speak. If he had done it linearly, I don't think he trusts his craft enough to be able to convince the audience at that point, because it's actually, if you think about it, it's a very Abbas Mastan kind of that kind of thing.
I detest that comparison, but yes.
I mean, they would do it well in a campy way. They would do it well.
Listen, Abbas Mastan, I also like, but doing it well isn't the group of words I would use.
I mean, race is interesting. Let's just put it that way.
Somehow I thought you were going to bring in Ghajini, Varun. You brought in Abbas Mastan.
Nolan could have done it better if Following would have been a very campy film. Because Abbas Mastan they are experts at doing campy films.
At campy films. So I think because it was slightly more, like you said, self-serious. He's treating it with a lot of with a certain lens of intellectualism. He's like, okay, let me try this trick, even if it's not perfect, it hooks people in.
And because I saw the linear edit though, because I saw it, and I genuinely feel that that reveal that Cobb and his wife are actually within it, because it's a linear edit, that reveal happens in the middle only. Right. So after that, what you are doing as a viewer is you are just waiting for the car crash to inevitably happen.
The bomb under the table sort of thing.
Yes, exactly.
Hitchcock principle, basically.
Yes. So I felt that if you remove that entire time ka experimentation, it will become even more of a Hitchcock thing. That will work. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, I would love to watch it's also 1 hour long, or whatever, 1 hour 10 minutes.
1 hour 10
minutes.
This is before we got into bloated Nolan run times. Even though
I think his leaner films are in that sense, at least, because for me, then again, Dunkirk is what, 107 minutes.
Yeah.
1 hour 47.
One of his shortest films.
Shortest studio film in that sense. It's in fact shorter than Memento. It's shorter
Memento
than
is shorter than
Insomnia.
Memento. Yeah.
So I think it's his second shortest film. After following it's got to be Dunkirk. And
good news for Oppenheimer,
in...
Varun. It's supposed to be 3 hours.
Yeah, 3 hours. That's okay. I mean, it's 30 years of Oppenheimer's life.
Yeah.
So, or at least 20 years. But it's also like, why do you have to be? It's that Indian principle of, if I'm paying 250 rupees, the movie should be 3.5 hours.
I think it's more like indulgence. It's becoming
absolutely. It's like I must make sure
I can cover all of it
showing on on screen. It doesn't make sense.
It's also almost feels like the director buying into his own hype in a way.
Oh, but why won't he?
Take a Fincher. The hype about him has not really changed his filmmaking style in that sense. He's still doing the sort of films he wanted to do. Albeit,
I feel Nolan's just upsized, but in many senses. So you have to change that. Like your approach will automatically be a little different, I feel.
And also the fact that you go ahead.
No, please, Prithwish, go ahead.
So I was just saying that also the fact that he's blurring out the line between practicality and extravagant thing, because he crashed a plane in Tenet. Now everyone is he also buys into the idea of meme marketing. How Nolan's films have become a meme, how Nolan's directorial techniques have become a meme. That is also
I sincerely hope he does not buy into his marketing too much and literally destroys a city using an atom bomb, at this point.
I don't know. Seriously.
No, but I think that whole what you're saying, Prithwish, about the whole publicity side of it. I mean, even it's weird that Amartya and me are actually in this episode, considering he's the cinema guy and we are we are not anti-cinema, but we are the least concerned about cinema experience.
Jeep insult him.
We both are. I don't really I don't think cinema experience defines a film, is my point.
Okay. The theatrical experience.
Yes, the theatrical which Nolan is all about, and I feel it's overinflated.
We are missing our co-host here, the one guy who
two co-hosts, both of them kind of are.
But I mean, if his theatrical experience thing is a bit of an oversell, because the way he's shot Oppenheimer, a handful of theaters, even in the States, only a handful can show it. In the way he shot it. So if your technique is so expensive that theaters are like, no, boss, we'll do without it.
No. And the weird thing is, I've actually seen his whatever he assumes are his whatever films that can only or should only be watched. I watched Dunkirk on the smallest thing on a plane, and it blew me out. So I'm like, boss, it works here also. Just saying, like you
I watched Dunkirk with an interval, so it still worked.
India
Same.
Indian theaters are always with intervals. On the weirdest point, I watched when I watched Tenet on the big screen for the second time, the interval was just when the chase started. During that when John David Washington was going to rescue Elizabeth.
If I saw it in the theater, I would have clapped. I was like, oh, khatam ho gaya.
Tenet insult number 2. Which is a good reason for us to move on to Memento, just to light things up, I feel.
Yep.
But see, after watching Insomnia, because I wanted to make more sense of Insomnia, and because I was like sleepy, I basically was starting to connect these films, so I was like, if following is about experiencing betrayal and like whatever experiencing sort of the betrayal from someone, Memento is basically wanting to live in like in the web of betrayal or in the web of lies, because that's more preferable, I feel, to
Memento is solipsism. Memento is constructing a reality which you want to live and you don't want to escape. Not understanding what the outside world actually is, and not accepting.
No, but I feel even the outside world sort of cons you, and you kind of want to be conned. That's
the cynicism, right? That's the ultimate noir cynicism. People recognize that this guy is always going to do it, so let me use him.
Teddy, don't believe his lies. He is the one. Kill him. I finally found him. How long have I been looking?
Find anything? Didn't think so. Let's go, huh? Oh, fuck this.
You're gonna pay for what you did. Beg forgiveness, and then you pay.
You don't have a clue, you freak.
Beg my wife's forgiveness before I blow your brains out.
Leonard, you don't know what's going on. You don't even know my name.
Teddy.
That's because you read it off a fucking picture. You don't know who you are.
I'm Leonard Shelby. I'm from San Francisco.
That's who you were. That's not what you become.
Shut your mouth.
You want to know, Lenny? Come on. Come on, let's go down to the basement. Let's go down, you and me together. Then you'll know who you really are. No!
The film is about, for whoever's not aware and whoever's not seen Memento, can you please go and watch it? Like, I mean,
they've watched Ghajini, so they know.
No. Absolutely not.
Guy Pearce is taller. And he doesn't dance to Behka Behka.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say the only thing I didn't like about Memento that it didn't have Tu Meri Adhuri Paas.
And also, Guy Pearce did not have an 8-pack.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. You know,
I like Prithwish that you said it didn't have that Javed Ali song. I was like, it doesn't have Pradeep Rawat. I mean, what are you going to do without Deva?
Come on, guys, you could have ruined following and Insomnia. Okay? You didn't have to ruin Memento, sorry.
How could have we ruined following with stalking Bollywood songs which romanticize stalkings?
Yeah, you can't actually ruin following. I think people will look at following and they'll be like, hey, इस movie में क्या है? ये तो
Exactly.
रोस्ट करते हैं.
ये रोस्ट करते हैं. इसमें क्या है?
Literally every Vela Nithalla type dude in
Exactly.
Oh God. Okay.
इससे अच्छा तो असुर बना दिया. इससे अच्छा तो असुर में अच्छा thriller है.
Jesus
What is
Christ, really that show now?
These references they unplanned all of them, by the way. Huh?
Ghajini was planned.
Ghajini ka first half I actually like. I like Asin ka whole comedy track with Amir Khan. I don't mind at all. Anyways, Memento is not comedy at all. Or actually, it is comic. It has a lot of comedy. It has a lot of black comedy too. But it's not a romantic revenge thriller, which was made into with Ghajini. To me, it's about memory. Like basically, the whole film is about memory, and it's one of the most, I think, expert ways of conveying like how slippery memory is and how much it's a mixture of fact and fiction, and how actually fiction, the whole saying of fiction is often born out of fiction. It's like almost a reverse of that.
Reversal.
Like a fact is born out of fiction or something like that. And it's such I think this is the marriage between form and content here is, I think, unsurpassable, I want to say, but I don't want to say that because I want to rewatch his other films and give them the chance of being better. Anyways, the film is about Leonard Shelby, an insurance investigator who suffers from retrograde amnesia.
Insurance investigator, because of course.
This is a bracket double indemnity.
Double indemnity, because of course.
Yeah, he suffers from retrograde amnesia, something even Shah Rukh Khan, I think, does in Jab Tak Hai Jaan. Since you guys have already ruined it all, we can just add other whatever instances.
He has two accidents in there.
Yes, exactly. One to remember and one to forget.
You want me to ruin it even more? Even Kyunki Sasbi ko bhi bahut hi Mihir had retrograde amnesia. Let's move on now.
Yeah, I mean, every character has this. They get hit once. They forget all the memories. They get hit on the
again.
Same
they will remember all the memories.
They will remember all the memories.
इसमें again नहीं है. Is the point?
Like a TV का remote,
I mean, क्या hard disk है भाई? कैसा formatting हो रहा है यहाँ पे?
Oh God.
Oh man.
Anyways, he suffers from amnesia, but he uses notes and tattoos to hunt for the man he thinks killed his wife, which is the last thing he claims to remember. So guys, I know we all love Memento. How much do you love it, and why do you love it so much? Is basically the place to start. Prithvish, you can start with you, and then we can go.
Okay. But I yeah. So the thing that goes without any sayings or any other what do you say? I would like so just I'll just get straight to the point that my favorite Nolan film till date is Memento, has to be, because even though he went on to stretch out this idea of this complex narrative into some extravagant films, the most Memento, I think, is his most honest uh, execution in the way he always wanted his stories to tell. Because as I said in the beginning, it's the most accessible, and also onto the same, it's the most accessible Nolan film. So the way he branches out the narrative style, he makes it very, very convenient for the audience to understand. With a scene, that scene starts from the beginning. When it starts from the beginning, the scene also ends at the beginning, the color ones.
Yes.
It also ends at the end with the same sequence, just to make the audience understand that it started from there.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen in the other films.
There is a clear demarcation, right?
There's a clear demarcation in Memento, and I think that's what makes Memento my favorite Nolan film, because I think what Christopher, like as I said, his directorial trademarks or whatever it was there, I think the most authenticity was portrayed. I think it's the most in Memento, and apart from that, like performances in his films didn't really account for me much. But even keeping aside that factor, the actors did really well. I mean, even though that Teddy guy, he went on to become a bit caricaturish in the end, but the editing and the sound designing towards the end, how he concluded that film with the philosophy that we all need mirrors to reflect, to remind of ourselves and everything. I think he reminded the idea of self-reflection and self-identity in the most conjugal way possible. So I think it made me. So it's. I think it's that Nolan film that made me understand all of his frames, all the scenes without being too caricaturish,
Without looking
yet
at an
being
explainer.
Exactly. I think
yet
that's
being complicated, yet looking intelligently edited film. And I think
just to mention,
I
sorry, the editor is Doddy Dawn, who's edited, I think, so this and Insomnia. The previous one's edited by Nolan himself. So
we also had a character named Dodd in Memento. So I think
there's so many names in Memento. Actually, I always confuse them. There's like names flying around, like 5, 6.
I remember because So amongst these three films, Memento is stuck with me the most. Because it's the most remarkable film, and in terms of editing or storytelling, what you might say, even the characters, the way they are being staged, the way they are being mentioned. So Dodd, there is one scene where this actor Carrie Ann Moss, what was her character's name? I don't remember. Natalie. So Natalie enters the room. She gets hit by Guy Pearce, and then she again enters. She says, "Dodd hit me. Dodd beat the shit out of me." So I remember. Then he kidnaps Dodd. So I remember all these characters. Then there was Sammy Jenkins and all this. Teddy was there. Edward Gamble. There was a lot of playing with the names as well.
John G.
Had a lot of
different sort of
the John G. John
variations
Edward Gamble. Sammy Jenkins.
Sammy, Leonard, what is it, like different sort of variations?
Lenny, Teddy.
Of course, the femme fatale's name in this movie is Natalie. Of course it is. It's like you have to name it like in some sort of a Russian seductress fashion. You have to name it Natalia or some shit like that. Because of course you have to do it.
You know the photo of hers is also like shadowy, like everywhere, like the Joe Pantoliano character basically says that what have you like Leibovitch, like you've taken the photo like a
Leibovitz, yes.
And of course Teddy is played by Joey Pants, one of the most exaggerated actors alive. That's a compliment, by the way. I love Joey Pants. Get the idea. And also,
he was brilliant in Sopranos. He was brilliant.
Oh yeah, season 2, man.
Absolutely brilliant. He killed it.
Yeah. So you get the idea here, and I think this is the closest crystallization of the noir genre according to Nolan. If anybody thinks that this is not noir, let me remind you that the forward timeline is literally in monochrome.
Yeah.
It is black and white. A phone rings and he's talking, he's expositioning, and even the backward timeline is having a voiceover by him. Every second the backward timeline resets is like, okay, what am I doing now? I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I'm like, so each and every single time a short film resets itself. Each and every section works as an individual short film.
But I'm still curious about how the plot line of Sammy Jenkins gets incorporated into this film. I'm still I don't want to think about that plot line. I just want to think about only Leonard's black and white and color events. But I'm still curious about how Sammy Jenkins got into this thing. Like, what is the significance of Sammy Jenkins and his character?
I think Sammy Jenkins is basically his manifestation of his own guilt. He's like projecting it into another character.
It's a story. It's a story.
Yeah, it's a story
constructed, basically.
The original Sammy Jenkins was the con man.
Yeah.
We don't know what the original Sammy Jenkins was like, but the Sammy Jenkins of the story is basically his guilt manifestation.
Yeah.
He's projecting his guilt into another character which he can blame. Similarly, like the blame he posits on the person who actually legitimately did a harmful thing on his life and completely destroyed his life.
Yeah.
That action is the only thing that is driving him now. So each and every time he's checking that Sammy Jenkins incident, he's using it as fuel again and again. It's like he wants to live in that reality, because if he doesn't get up, because if he doesn't live in that reality, what else is he going to do? He's going to face the actual reality, which is that his wife is dead, he has nothing to live for, and he's literally just a walking, talking vigilante who is shooting people named John G.
Yeah. He's exacted his revenge, right? In many senses. That's what I mean. One of I think this is the more sort of heartbreaking part. I mean, I think it's a heartbreaking film in general. Like, just there's a devastation, emotional devastation in the idea that you have to tell lies to be happy. Like, it's as simple, which is also explained in the film, which I still think
we all lie to be happy. Yeah,
we all lie to be happy. It's kind of like is the whole
you did
thing.
not need the line though. That's my whole point. It's like
you don't need it. It's all sort of already expressed in ways which is pretty amazing. But I think one of the things that struck me this time was Varun, you go after this, please. That struck me this time at least was that that he goes to Teddy and I think he tells him, I've lost my train of thought. How appropriate.
How appropriate.
How appropriate. Varun, go ahead. Sorry. This wasn't even I genuinely did lose my train of thought.
I like to think of Memento as an interesting, because it's thought of as a thriller and as a noir film, and it is all those things. I like to think of it actually as a very interesting city film. I like how for a thriller, for instance, it takes place mostly for large parts in the daytime.
Yep.
There's so much, and it's actually fairly bright film. There's a lot of like white seeping in constantly. It's like, if you didn't know it was by design, you'd be like, does this guy not know how to shoot?
Yeah.
You'd be like, there's just too much light bleeding into the frame. And the idea that, Los Angeles can still be this town of seemingly few people. It's not popping with color.
Is it in LA? I'm not sure the location. I think I'm always
LA.
a bit lost.
Is it in LA though? I thought that it was in Detroit or something.
Okay.
I have a feeling it was LA. Okay. But regardless,
anyways,
at that point, at least the American city film was about, popping colors and vibrant stuff. Even if it was dark.
Yeah.
Even if it was like you had LA Confidential just a couple of years ago.
The mundanity of a modern American city.
Absolutely. Exactly that. And it sort of reflects in the kind of clothes he wears. He's again dressed a bit like Nolan. He's constantly wearing those suits.
Oh, yeah.
Gray suits, blue shirts.
Light blue shirt,
Plus Guy Pearce, but yes. Like a lot of things.
Also, if you notice one thing, Guy Pearce wears a gray coat and a blue shirt, while Teddy wears a blue overcoat and a gray shirt. Yeah, so it's like there it completely symbolizes the fact that it is going in reverse.
Yeah. And they are opposites also, like they are basically sort of finding each other. I mean, Varun, you continue. I will say what I thought, and now I
Yeah.
might have realized.
So I like the fact that the film gives you a chance. I don't like the films that are like, hey, got you. It's when you're trying to do something, you give your audience a fair chance.
Otherwise, it's like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme every single time. Hey, got
Not
you.
just that,
Hey,
it's like Agatha Christie ki sabne ek murder kiya hai.
Yeah, sabne ek murder kiya. Yeah.
Which is just
spoilers.
Spoilers for Murder on the Orient
Murder
Express.
on the Orient Express. Yeah.
So it gives you that chance, and it allows you, and like both Prithwish and Amartya pointed out, it's a film that's fairly sort of, you can tell what's happening. You just need to follow the trail.
Following,
following
the trail.
Follow the film. So,
but it's also like a jigsaw puzzle, which is also linear, right? It's just reverse linear. It's just reverse. That's it.
Yeah. And it's also, you can just call it a staple thriller and pretty much enjoy it.
Yeah.
You don't need to necessarily be joining all the dots, and it's fun in that way, and it's more fun if you join the dots. But you could also be like, I want to watch a panic room kind of movie. You put on Memento, and you'll still enjoy it as a film.
No, this time, I think this time much more than sort of previous watches, I watched it primarily as a sort of, I'm not going to look to join how one thing fits with another. And the whole film just played out much more like a haze, like memory, I guess. Like it felt hazy, like, you are overwhelmed by details flying at your face, and you kind of just accumulate them in a sense where you are like just lost in a similar sense that the character is.
That's the design, right? Because each and every time the protagonist is telling, okay, what do I have now? I have a wine bottle in my hand. I'm sitting here.
Yeah.
Walls are green.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. All that
I'm chasing him. Oh no, he's chasing me.
Yeah, the details are basically resetting him, right?
Yeah.
Setting him, grounding him in a way, just to, so that his memory can recalibrate again.
Absolutely.
It's also like information overload on the viewer, except if you're logically thinking, you are already placing the jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel it's very much like even what we talked about, how in following the structure sometimes felt like a aberration, right? It felt like too much of an imposition. Here, I feel he is trying to order this like super like precisely, but it still finds ways to be super chaotic. So like it's like perfectly encapsulating like the memory itself. Like it feels so like I mean, you talked about the flashes, right? In following the cuts, how they happen within scenes. In this also, like there's these momentary flashes of his wife, which feel like they've like just burst onto the scene rather than sort of be arranged or organized by him. So again, it's such a like brilliant mix of both of these sensibilities. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that's something Nolan would lose later on. Instead of those bursts, like he'll show you one frame.
He will prolong it.
So you see it in pretty much all his bigger films.
Inception. With the wife subplot.
Mal. Everywhere you shout Mal, everywhere.
It just keeps going on, and you're like, you've lost that impact.
That elusive nature of what it used to be, you kind of just
I think the film where it works is probably Dunkirk, because he just cuts out
there's no flashback.
He cuts out any and all emotional connection to Dunkirk anyway. It's like you're just watching it.
I don't know. I thought that's not
that's not a criticism of the movie. Yeah. I love that movie. I'm just saying, that's not a
no. But even so, like when he uses the flash, not even the flashes, for instance, when he shows Tom Hardy finally land at Dunkirk Beach, he lets that play out. But there's very little narrative sound. The sound is all Zimmer's music.
It's all within the scene, right? Like within
it
one
doesn't, like
individuated
pointed
moment.
out, if he does it so much in Inception and then in Interstellar, it just, and even in the Dark Knight Rises, after a point you're like, man, this movie is interminable.
I love that movie, but
negatives later. So
but it's in Memento you realize that using it sparingly, not necessarily in terms of how often you use the technique, but how you're using it in itself.
This is very
what packs a punch.
This is also the place where I invoke my Terrence Malick reference. I think he is
Please,
influenced
please. I am open the door. Please.
He is influenced by him. This is not even like me reaching. He is actively a big fan of the Thin Red Line. So the flashbacks.
I never said you were reaching. I'm just saying doors open. Go ahead.
I know. But wo hai, my point is that like the whole flashes of the past, like the impressionist angle of it feels very much from what a Malick. I mean, Malick film.
But Malick mimics it in the Thin Red Line. Like Ben Chaplin reading that letter is such a ham of a scene.
Oh boy!
No.
You feel for him.
Opening a wrong can of worms here, Varun. We are going to get into an argument.
Not
that
the
film
episode.
changed
Not
my
the
life,
episode.
so I can't hear. I'm kidding. You
Not
can
the
say bad things
episode.
about it.
Not the episode to do that. Yeah.
Yes. Or not in front of me. You can criticize him as much in front of other people. I kid.
I think the perspective. I think what struck me this time while watching Memento, by the way, I watched it almost a decade later. So,
wow.
So, oh yeah, I'm old, guys. Anyway, so
we are also greater than a decade-year-old. ऐसे कोई 10
दो
साल के
decades के तो हो भी कोई ऐसा नहीं.
So no, the thing is that what I saw at this point, what struck me this time was there's a very weird scene, right? That he hires an escort and he just tells her to, arrange a couple of things so that, and slams the door so that he wakes up.
Yeah.
When I saw that the last time I had seen that movie, that scene didn't even register with me. This time when I saw the scene, I realized that was the whole point of the movie. He doesn't want to escape this cycle.
Yeah. He wants to stay in it. That's the first scene also, no? Yeah, I mean, we discussed how great the first image is of him shaking the photo, and the photo, rather than forming, it blurs out. He wants to blur it out. He wants to blur his reality out.
It's almost like self-flagellation, right?
Yeah, it is.
It is self-flagellation. He doesn't want to escape it because that is the only thing that is giving him purpose.
Order. That's what it gives him.
Order,
That's a circular order, I feel like, almost.
It's a circular order,
yeah. And then you're trapped in it, but you kind of feel liberated by it because that's the only way you can live your life.
I'm bringing a computer reference here. I can't believe it. So every time he's resetting it, it's like a computer without a cache memory, right? Because every time you shut down a computer, your RAM memory is erased.
Yeah.
Every time you turn it on, your RAM takes it from the cache memory and then reboots it.
Yeah.
So what is happening this time, that every time a loud sound or 15 minutes have passed, his memory is automatically getting reset. Except this time there is no cache memory. That is like there is no new memories for him.
Yeah.
So that's both a hindrance for him and also a relief for him.
Yeah. I feel it's more like, by the end, I feel it's much more like the weird thing is where he writes on one of his photos, like it can be taken in two ways. He writes on the photo with Natalie that she is the one who's also experienced pain and she will be the one who will help you.
Out of pity.
In the weirdest possible way, she does help him because she manages to make him kill the one person who wants him to investigate himself and to reveal the truth. And the thing he does to him is basically kill him so that he can essentially reset his cycle again. Yeah. It's like, I just think like the more you sort of delve into the machinations of the plot and the way it's constructed, you kind of, I find it hard to like shake off, which I think is the whole
one of the best Jonathan Nolan stories.
It's his short story, right?
One of the best of Jonathan Nolan stories. One of Christopher Nolan's best screenplays.
Yeah.
I'm actually wondering if, with the entire way in which the film ends up playing out, that he wants to remain in this thing, if it's actually a point about comfort in life, right? Which is, we are so comfortable in a certain reality and in a day-to-day of it, that even a reality that is not necessarily very pleasant, but we are accustomed to, is
it's
something
order.
The human being as a creature of habit or repetition would be like, okay, fine, bring it on, because you can do it all over again.
Yeah, there's certainty, I think.
Yeah.
But there's certainty about a horrible fact that your wife is dead and you've still not attained justice. Yeah. Like that's the horrible thing, I feel, but you're still sticking to it because that's the only way of going through life. Like, it's such a sad way to look at life, but it's what the film conveys, I think, very heartbreakingly. And so I mean, it's like, I feel this is my answer always to people who think that Nolan films are cold. I feel this film kind of just passes that boundary for me, at least. Like, it does make me.
This film is tragic in a way.
Yeah,
In a way,
it's
and that's why it
full on
can't be
tragedy, I
called as
feel.
cold also, because
Yeah.
it's extremely cynical, because he's like a rolling stone. He's like a stone, he's like rolling down a hill at this point. And all these people who are surrounding him, they are seeing the stone and each and everything. They're just cutting through the path just a bit so that the stone can shift and just destroy any of the things which are stopping their lives.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like, he's like a force of nature. Let's just, point him in this direction.
Yeah.
He will solve our problems and let him go about his merry way.
Absolutely.
That is heartbreaking.
Yeah, and the fact that he's happy being that almost after a point, because it's like that's the way he will live his life. Otherwise, how will he?
That is heartbreaking. That is also terrifying.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm wondering if the cynicism in his films and the films of his that are emotional are also the most emotional, are also the ones of his that are the most cynical. There's the Prestige, where there's multiple deaths happening and stuff going down, and to some degree I'd say that of the Dark Knight as well, because you've got an emotional hook to both.
I think a lot of people like Interstellar, right? I mean, I like Interstellar plenty.
It's not cynical though.
No, it's very romantic, very saccharine.
Very
saccharine. No, that's why I was wondering. Like, I mean, I know people like
Interstellar. I think that's the exception to his emotionality, so to speak. Because even Dunkirk, what happens is that it's a failure. Dunkirk's evacuation basically just saved the British army.
Yes.
And the idea was then, now we have an army to fight a war.
Yes.
You still had 5 more years of war left.
Yes.
So there's no real victory.
It's basically stopping a police action to get back to the war.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that has, he's more sort of he's more
cynicism has more depth.
Nolan films are they are tragic without emotions, without like on your face emotions, I would say.
Yeah. Like
that's
Dark
true.
Knight,
Like
the Dark Knight is also extremely tragic.
Yeah, it is. And it's doubly tragic, right? It's personally tragic and institutionally tragic.
Yeah, of course. Because the truth doesn't, because that's why it's also emotional, because the truth doesn't matter all the time. The people deserves more.
Yeah.
That's and like you because Dent lets you down more than anyone else. Dent lets you down so badly in the film.
Yeah.
And you're like, everything that he's the figure of hope and all of that jazz just comes crashing down.
You guys are welcome to record an episode on the Batman series, by the way, if you wish.
Rises की बात करनी पड़ेगी, वही problem.
Rises का बात मैं कर दूंगा, issue नहीं.
Anyways, anything more, guys, on Memento before we move on to what I think is the worst Nolan film?
I don't think it's his worst.
Same.
Anyways, I wanted to shout out also, do you guys also think that Guy Pearce looks a lot like young Brad Pitt, right? It's not just me.
There's a similarity there.
Guy Pearce is basically young Christopher.
Pierce Brosnan. It's more like
interesting.
Pierce
I
Brosnan.
just thought he looked so much like Fight
Club.
Club.
Yeah.
Like he's inspired by him, and then he basically is less cocky.
With
and
that jaw structure, right? Jaw structure with the cuts in between.
Yeah,
it
I don't
feels
know.
like,
He reminded me a lot like him.
Guy Pearce should have been a superstar at this point,
And his wife looks a lot like Daisy Ridley. I was like, what alternate universe is this I'm living in? But it's clearly not Daisy Ridley. So
Guy Pearce was set up for superstardom in the late 2000s.
Yeah.
Memento, he had
LA Confidential.
Well, he's the guy who gets beaten up in Prometheus. I remember him as that, or like gets his head sucked out.
He has a very strong supporting role right now in a recent miniseries I'm watching. But
Mayor of Easttown.
Mayor of Easttown.
Not. I'm not. Oh
yeah, he's the love interest in that. No.
The Clearing.
Achha,
there is a show I'm watching called The Clearing. It's an Australian cult TV show. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's quite good. But yeah.
Okay. Insomnia? Alaska we'll go to. Nicely. Australia to dur ki baat hai.
They brought him in to solve an unspeakable crime.
Detective Dormer, it's such an honor to meet you. I'm Detective Ellie Burr. Welcome to Night Mute. So incredible to be working with you. The Leland Street murders was my case study at the Academy.
Someone out there just beat a 17-year-old girl to death. Your job is to find him.
Doesn't say in the report that he clipped her nails. He washed her hair.
No mutilation?
Not this time. He tortures him, makes him do things, and keeps him there for 3 days. This guy, he crossed the line, and he didn't even blink.
Police! What Detective Dormer doesn't know is that murder is only part of the plan.
Amartya,
Insomnia-
you can do the honors. I'll be snarky about it. So
I can be snarky about it also. I'm more snarky about the original than the remake. to be very
so that's
honest.
why you do the honors. I'll be nice. No, I'll stay out.
No. So a pair of detectives are basically sent to investigate a murder in a sleepy, because this is the Nolan version, the sleepy
Yeah.
Alaskan town.
Yeah.
The gimmick of the movie is that the town has perpetual sunlight because there is no sunset.
Yes. Guilt looms large.
Guilt
basically.
looms large, yeah, and all
Yes,
that stuff.
yeah.
Snark कहाँ घुसाओगे भाई? ऐसे
It's
भी तो
guilt.
निकल
Why,
रहे
that's
हैं.
the listen. The idea. This is there in the original also. So the original one is the
Yeah,
Swedish
yeah.
version, 1997 version, Scandinavian
1997
noir,
version, yeah,
beginning of Scandinavian noir, I think.
Yeah.
At least from
Bad
whatever I
beginning,
remember.
by the way. Well, let's just move on.
Yes.
Uh,
So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but now the two police officers, one is played by Al Pacino, the other is played by, I exactly don't remember the
Matthew
name.
or something. Matthew
Yeah.
something.
He's in other
Yeah.
Nolan films only.
Martin
He's in other-
Donovan.
Yeah.
Martin Donovan.
Martin Donovan. He has
He was
been
he was
other
in
Nolan
Tenet.
films.
He was in
He was
Tenet.
in Tenet, yeah.
I remember him the most in Ant-Man because Michael Douglas broke
Wow.
his nose. That I remember. I remember
I think he
very
will,
clearly.
I don't think he will appreciate that, but okay, that people remember him from Ant-Man, but okay.
Yeah.
So, but during an investigation into the murder of a young school teenager,
Yeah.
while chasing down the suspect, Al Pacino's character, who is our protagonist, shoots his partner by mistake.
Yes.
And now, and apparently the killer, the person who is being chased, the killer has actually seen this event
Yes.
occur.
Yeah.
So now the cat and mouse chase begins, in which Pacino's character has to both solve the case as well as ensure that the blame doesn't fall on him, that he has
Yes.
murdered his partner. So that's
Yeah.
the cat and mouse chase.
Yeah.
That's more or less the basic plot of the movie.
That's very well summarized also.
Sounds like every HBO miniseries.
Every HBO miniseries ever, yeah.
Every
I'm
thriller
I'm
Hollywood was
guaranteeing you-
making in the early
Yeah, yeah.
2000s.
I'm guaranteeing you True Detective Night Country will also be the same thing.
Exactly.
Except
was always
perpetual
like that.
sunlight is perpetual darkness. That's
I mean, I don't want to say it's but it is one of the films which will just not age well because of how much proliferation of like this type of film and show we have
Exactly.
now, I think. Right, because I think there's just so much that I'm like, I watched this 3 times now, and I'm shocked I watched it 3 times.
I don't know why.
Because I don't remember it, Amartya. It's not very good, so I need to refresh my memory of
get it, but
Memento
you don't-
reference.
You
That's all
don't
gonna be
remember it.
everything.
You don't remember it. Memory.
Of course. But
No, but-
there's not even like memory slippage in this case. I just
I'm-
don't remember the movie. So like I needed
It's
to
a very forgettable film, honestly.
That's
I
my
would-
thing.
I
only,
would
but yeah,
put
go
this.
ahead.
I'm going to put this through, but honestly, I would like to bring up the original because
Yes.
people are really shocked that I don't like the original, and my point is that I just look Scandinoirs are dry. That's the
Yes.
basic conceit of their whole thing. They don't
Yeah.
have a loud background score.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't have that much of dynamic camera work to the extent that you are going to be slack and jaw at every of the scenery, because that's not the point. The juxtaposition is already a given.
Yeah.
Great scenery, but the murders which are happening are equally heinous.
Yeah.
That's a given. I get it. But my issue with Insomnia, which I think the remake actually
1997 version, right?
1997, yeah. My issue with Insomnia is that the movie is 95 minutes long, and
Yeah.
this is one of those movies in which I think the 90 minutes actually hurt the movie.
You
Because
wanted
there
it to
are
be longer, you need
I
to be.
think I wanted it to be a tad bit longer because I felt that there were scenes missing in which plot progression actually happened. I genuinely felt that. Because like there are some dots connection within the basic logic of the narrative which I could not buy.
Yeah.
That is number one. Number two is because this is a Scandi noir, I understand that, characters are supposed to be not that much expressive. They're supposed to be obtuse.
Yeah.
I understand that Stellan Skarsgård's character was supposed to be obtuse, and I buy it. Skarsgård is brilliant, by the way, in this movie.
Yeah.
That is the one good thing about this movie. Skarsgård is absolutely brilliant in this. But he did not need to be that perverse. I understand, that European movies can have edginess. Hollywood can't have edginess because we are snowflakes. I get it. I completely understand all your problems. My point is, even the edginess needs a reason, right?
I understand what you mean. No, I told you when you said that, I was like, maybe I need to rewatch I won't, but I need to rewatch the 1997 version also.
Yeah, because
and I'm like, maybe it's not as, I mean, I don't like it, but I was much more appreciative of it than 2002 version, because Hollywoodization of the 2002 version to me is like on another level only.
I agree.
It's like you can't, one of those rules in the screen books where it's like you can't kill the dog on screen.
Oh yeah,
it's
they
followed.
Did not. The dog is dead.
The dog is already dead before they shoot it on screen. So it's like
the
safety measures.
The Scandinavian bleakness is so much that at this point in the original, there is literally the scene in which Skarsgård's character shoots the dog. He feeds him a cookie and then he shoots the dog. After shooting the dog, he literally cuts the bullet out.
Yeah.
Hollywood is such a snowflake that they showed the dog is already dead.
So like a dog killer can't be a good guy, right?
A dog killer can't be a good guy,
But the point being that they can't.
No, and you can't even see him puking. Al Pacino. Maybe Al Pacino refused. But
maybe, yeah.
You're out of order.
Al Pacino is like, you also need to realize that this is Al Pacino of the 90s into the early 2000s. This is Al Pacino of Heat. The fact that he can't do hoorah. He can't do hoorah in this movie. I'm sure that must have cost him a lot. So he's like...
He was actually trying very hard to get out that frustration, lose his shit. Because he was still in his Vincent Hanna era. Vincent Hanna zone, wearing all that same coat, walking the same style. With the same droopy eyes. Even Vincent Hanna had that thing as well, but then again he went on to have some frustration, lose his shit in front of the victims, but he
has one or two shouts, right? In
it's very less compared to any generic
I know.
Heat is a vibe, man. Heat is a vibe.
I'm actually glad.
We can have an entire episode about Heat.
I'm glad somebody else brought up Heat actually, because I was just thinking this is Pacino's character in Insomnia is what would happen if you took Vincent Hanna off cocaine.
Exactly.
Pretty much dried him out and then sent him to Alaska to investigate a murder.
Yes. Who knows? Maybe that's exactly what happened.
Given his Heat love.
I need to read Heat too, by the way. I don't know if Michael Mann actually loves Insomnia enough to put it in. I have no idea.
I'm missing out on something if you've not read that novel. It's quite good.
Yeah, I have been reading it. It's actually great. I was surprised.
Terrific.
Back to Insomnia, Amartya.
No, I'm getting that. By the way, I like this movie. Just putting it out there. I'm not.
So, but see, guys, you can chime in.
Before I get there, I was talking about the original, and it's like the perversion of it. That Stellan
Skarsgård.
Skarsgård's character being so, even while he's driving, he's trying to his intimacy with the young girl and everything.
Yeah, it's very icky. I remember it being very icky.
I understand that. That edginess, that sordidness. I think that sordidness even extends to his intimacy with the receptionist, which in
I remember that relationship being extremely uncomfortable in the Swedish version, and it's barely there in this version. All the women characters in this are horrible. I think, like, horribly written, and you go into this whole angle of Nolan hasn't written them, by the way. So just to like clarify that.
The screenplay is the original thing. That's my whole point, right?
They're adapted by Hilary Seitz. So
yeah, you can't exactly fault
Nolan for it. Yes.
Yeah. So my point is that okay, so the women character are horrible. I get it. Why did you need to show the perversion and sordidness again? The murder is already cruel done. The mistake is already done. How much more do you need to?
Again, I just don't. Hazy memory of 1997.
But the biggest criticism of the entire original movie which I had is that apparently because Stellan Skarsgård character is in a city where sunlight doesn't set, he's suffering from insomnia. Bloody fuck, show me that.
But why do you need to show?
Show me that he's tired. Show me that he's tired. Why do you need to?
He looks like he's had 15 bottles of vodka and he's literally just like...
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You haven't slept for 4 or 5 days. You mean to tell me that you can walk straight?
Yeah, I mean, come on, that much. So even in this new one is a bit like in this new one, though I couldn't buy that they're in Alaska. Like the Alaska seemed like a tourist version of Alaska.
Yeah, okay, that I understand.
That was British Columbia. They couldn't.
That's Hollywoodization. Yeah, that's Hollywoodization. I get it. But at least Al Pacino is yawning. At least Al Pacino is hallucinating. And Al Pacino is hitting in walls. Okay, I get that.
See, again,
at least.
Yeah, fair enough.
These are the criticisms I have. Now let's get on with the original. The new one.
New one, not original.
Yeah, new one. So you guys go ahead. Then we'll talk about it. Yeah.
So
do you remember it, Varun? Yeah. Because you've seen it like a while back.
No, I rewatched only Insomnia because of the three is the only one I don't like.
Okay.
So
you rewatched that only.
That one only because I was like, because you need to give the film that chance, right? Okay, maybe I wasn't in a good space, that kind of thing. But I had watched it the first time in fairly decent atmospherics. It was quite cold where I was living also at that time.
So it helped.
4DX.
It helped. Yeah.
No
4DX experience.
4DX experience. Yeah. Too much 4DX.
Too much 4DX. But I think my impression of the film reduced, or at least I didn't feel that I had been unfair to it the first time. Yeah. I feel that the 3 I've given it on Letterboxd is about half star too many. But it's very, the only places where Nolan comes through is actually when he tries to frame his characters in the larger environment that he's shooting.
The landscape shots of...
not the landscape shots, because those feel like they're, Tony Krister was hired by British Columbian government to shoot a bit. It's like, it's like half the films we are making in India right now. Anil Mehta raised this great point that all of our comments about good cinematography are about Switzerland and Jammu and Kashmir. Anybody can shoot
landscape shots. Yeah, landscape shots.
Exactly. So, but here I think it's when, for instance, Pacino and Donovan, the seaplane lands and Hilary Swank gets out of the car and she's walking down the gangplank and he frames her walking down the gangplank from afar. And the seaplane is in the backdrop and you can see the entire water body and everything. And I thought that's a fairly neat shot in the sense of a Nolan shot of, this person and understanding the space they are in. But then the rest of it is so turgid and so really, I'm like, okay, fine. It's very staple. I like Robin Williams. I like Robin Williams. I think
Robin Williams, I like
it. Felt like he was a misfit in this film. I felt like he was a misfit in this film.
I'll tell you what I liked. I liked that they didn't make him a crazy killer. He is a man who seems genuinely convinced that what happened was
a mistake.
And he plays that element of the performance well. But when him and Pacino are going toe to toe, it's an uneven scene. That scene,
It's the scene because in the boat.
On the boat, it's because it's completely Williams's scene. It's not, and I get it that Williams's character has the upper hand.
I thought on the boat scene, I thought Pacino was literally going to fall asleep. I'm like, okay, you're acting, but are you actually going?
Because it felt. Also, I felt Pacino was perhaps at that point already too old to be playing the character that he
there were so many cuts in this where I was like, how much do you have to cut to show to cover up the fact that
that's what I mentioned. That's what I mentioned there in first.
But yeah, he can't
so
run. I'm
many
sorry.
cuts.
I'm sorry.
Irishman before
So
Irishman.
many.
Yeah, Irishman is 20 years later, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it's kind of like if they'd taken a slightly younger actor and done something with that, but for whatever reason they went with Pacino.
Stellan Skarsgård ko le lete yaar. Like he did the original.
Yeah,
he
but
would have
again,
migrated.
here's the thing, right? Here's my defense for Insomnia in this case, that I think the interpretation is different here, right? Because if you see the original, the Hilary Swank character and the Al Pacino character in the original, they are colleagues, they are contemporaries. So the interaction between the two of them is more of a healthy competition plus a respect, which turns into contempt by the Hilary Swank character when she understands that he has done the deed. That's contempt. In this interpretation, it's not contempt. For Hilary Swank, that's conflict, because she actually looks up to him. So that reinterpretation I can buy. I felt that was a pretty smart choice in a way. Making Al Pacino as a much more veteran of a character who has seen a lot of shit, actually. I think that interpretation actually works in this scenario.
Okay, interesting. I mean, I just think there's barely anything given to Hilary Swank to work with. So Swank
she's just sort of like going with it.
Yeah, Hilary Swank's character was really badly written because she had no emotional arcs when she got to know Al Pacino killed this guy. She was also like, she was kind of like very submissive. She got to know the fact.
I think the conflict here was that, because this is the reinterpretation, right? I think the conflict here was that she never took it as a form of betrayal, but the conflict is that she also thinks that how can he do it? Apparently, this is a guy who has solved so many cases.
But did you get that impression? Like, I never got
I got it in the end. I got it in the end. Which is why I think that this is also Nolan becoming more studio-fied and his cynicism decreasing. Because
it's his least cynical film because there's redemption in this.
Yeah, like the ending is the most non-noir ending I can ever think of.
I wrote Haze coded totally.
Haze coded, yeah, exactly.
Going back to the noir, totally Haze coded.
It's totally Haze coded.
There's a moment. No, but what you bring, there's a moment in this when Robin Williams tells, Pacino holds the gun to Williams's face, I think, and Williams is is this he asks him, is this also an accident? And he's like, if you wish it to be, which is the sort of Memento idea. I feel like this whole idea that, a man is capable of doing horrible things and then deciding whether it's true or false based on his own corrupted morality. But the film sort of goes on from there, and then he has to have like a hero's arc and redemption and everything.
The good thing about the original is the original basically ends with their last confrontation near the hotel. That confrontation which happens near the hotel. That last confrontation happens near the wharf in the original. In which that confrontation happened, then the guy tries to escape and he
falls down or something,
and he falls down. And
like this guy doesn't even do anything.
Unceremonious. It's unceremonious as hell. That's the good thing I liked about that movie, because that's the driest of all endings. But that is also so Scandi noir, I can't complain about that. Dry endings, I understand. But this is like, I saw that, then I'm waiting. Wait, this thing is 90. That thing was 95 minutes long. This thing is 2 hours and 10 minutes. There's still 20 minutes left.
Yeah, it's about 2 hours. It's just
2 hours. It just feels 2 hours 20.
Yeah. And I'm like, it's almost 20 minutes or more left. What else is he going to do in 20 minutes more? And then that entire shootout scene and everything, and I'm like, why?
That is the studio part of the film, right?
That is the studio part of the film.
So I'll tell you what surprised me about that. I had a comment on the Hilary Swank thing. I'll quickly make it. Has anybody watched the ABC show Castle back in the day?
Yes, I have.
Right? In that, Stana Katic's character, Kate Beckett, is similarly betrayed by a seeming mentor kind of figure who is her own captain.
Early seasons, right? Season 4, the betrayal.
4, 5, yeah.
4, 5, yeah.
So it's like, I get it. It's long form storytelling, so you can do it much better. But I found that, if you had done that kind of thing or tried to bring that kind of thing to the table here, the Swank Pacino situation would have worked out better. The betrayal didn't hold, much weight.
It's like even if the script doesn't give you, I think it's the same thing I told Dhruv during our Jubilee discussion, right? I'm just bringing this up because no, I'm just bringing this up for a reason that if your script doesn't give you much, if you are an actor of a high caliber, the actor should be able to take it upon himself. Yeah. I don't think that Hilary Swank took it upon herself also to, elevate this or anything. I'm not expecting anything from
I would say
Pacino is fucking 60. I'm not expecting anything from Pacino.
I would say Carrie Ann Moss does a lot with a smaller.
It's
a
Memento,
part, but it's but she makes a lot of it.
Especially in Memento during that scene when she says, I can do anything with you and you will not remember anything, you retard. I'm like, nice. Nice. That's well done.
Anyway, back to Insomnia.
With the studification, you look at the credits, right? Two of your executive producers are George Clooney and Steven
Soderbergh. I was like, wow.
I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah. First of all, Clooney doesn't have a role in the film, which is great. It's so rare. Every actor who's an executive producer on a film is usually
I actually think though, Clooney, I wouldn't have minded seeing Clooney.
I wouldn't have minded Pacino. Instead of Pacino. A little more agile.
Clooney in place of Pacino.
Also, Insomnia feels more like more like a Soderbergh film than a Nolan film. Like Nolan, it doesn't feel like, ये देख के नहीं लगता है कि Nolan ये बना सकता है. Soderbergh can make this. Nolan can't make this.
No, but I think the Nolan thing, I think the Nolan trademarks are more in the editing.
The flashes.
Said in the beginning of the podcast. The flashes.
That's what I said. Yeah, that's what I also said in the beginning. It's more about the restlessness of the film.
So that studiofication also felt like, even the studio is telling Nolan, you can do your thing now. Just do some parts of your thing. So when he's shooting, Robin Williams' character, the entire shootout, it's like each and every time the shootout is occurring, that quick editing of it all, that he's shooting and they're shooting and everything, that's like Nolan perfecting the following style, more or less.
Right.
That's Nolan perfecting it. He will perfect it completely in Dark Knight. But
there was one moment which like really struck out to me because I was honestly borderline sleeping by the end just because I was tired. I'd watched Memento and this is the third time I was watching
this. You watched a movie called Insomnia and you were borderline
I know the irony. But there's this moment towards the end where like all his sort of past sins and whatever lies he's made start to like blur in front of him as he's like facing Robin Williams at the shootout, and I thought that the direction of that particular scene was really impressive and effective. I thought more of this, please, Nolan.
What I felt is that Soderbergh at that time had just, I think, done Oceans. So he was kind of indebted to the studios that,
2002,
even though,
right?
So Traffic has also just happened.
Ocean's 11 and Traffic, I think, just happened.
And I'm like, how can Soderbergh agree to back such a staple? Because, of his generation, I would actually say nobody has done more inventive things with the form
than Soderbergh.
Soderbergh has. He's like, nobody wants to sort of watch
he's always been like
Lucky.
He's always been flitting around the indie mainstream.
You want to know how zero budget filming looks like? I'm going to show you with an iPhone.
So and I'm like, why would Soderbergh, and essentially Soderbergh, the reason is to help put Nolan ground
on the studio map,
LA, right? And essentially that would lead to bigger things. But especially that ending is such a studio thing. It's such a you need to have this hero-villain confrontation.
It's also a very studio thing in that I don't know if you caught this. It's like Jesus Christ, the Bourne Identity destroyed many thriller movies, right? It's like, Christ, for effing sake, just stop with the quick cuts. I beg you.
But I think the quick cuts in this are to cover the fact that these two aren't like involved
in agile young men.
I get it, but still. भाई shoot ही तो कर रहा है इतना कोई
and it's not even like a western where you can do it
minor defense though. I am a big fan of Greengrass's
Greengrass knows how to do it.
By Jason Bourne he had lost.
No, not Jason Bourne. That's
not Jason Bourne. By Bourne Supremacy or Ultimatum
Ultimatum was also a bit much. By Jason Bourne I had checked out. I was like,
Jason Bourne was boring. I think.
Jason Bourne was boring. It's boring.
Better than Tenet though? Question mark.
No, not better than Tenet.
Okay.
Hard comparison to make. Both are horrible. Anyway.
Anything more, guys, about Insomnia before we sleep off?
About Insomnia, I'm surprised that so many people are defending it by saying it's one of those thrillers which people want Nolan to make, because apparently they have
because a lot of people don't like the whole Nolan complex, not complexity, but like Nolan sometimes over elaborate whatever.
His simplest film is his most popular film. I don't know what people are talking about. Dark Knight is the simplest.
Dark Knight is a very simple. The entire Batman trilogy.
Batman trilogy is linear.
It's very simple.
It's very simple.
Very simple.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, what are you guys talking about?
The Nolan complexity is talked about too much. It's not. I read this book also on Nolan by this guy.
Yeah, because I think. I think because
just tell you.
After the Dark Knight trilogy, when Inception came out, I think it's from Inception this Nolan complex started among the masses.
I think it's more like the hype, right?
Yeah,
I remember when Inception first came out that people were saying, "Oh my God, it's a dream within a dream."
It's such a mindfuck film.
Chill out. I'm like, chill out. Chill out.
Such a mindfuck. Interstellar, do you like even guys from my school back at that time, like, dude, you have to watch this film. They talk about black hole, NASA, they got this physics and everything. I'm like, okay, but this is how Nolan films are. I mean,
they talk about black holes when they are in the spaceship for the first time. Yes. Like they've talked about.
I mean, Nolan's intelligence didn't really cater me a lot that I would get attracted to his the directorship, but I think the fact that
by the way, Inception is basically Doodlebug, huh?
Oh yeah,
Inception is basically Doodlebug. Yeah, it's basically Doodlebug.
I mean, I feel a lot of his ideas in Memento carry
exactly.
forward.
Nolan has a lot of derivative filmmaking ideas throughout his years, but I think I mean Christopher Nolan, the filmmaker he is now, the popularity he has gained is because he tried to reach out the concept of intelligence and complexity to the masses in a very tangible way. In a very extravagant way, the thing that would cater masses, the thing a film like Primer or Coherence or a Pi wouldn't cater to the masses at all.
By the way, I saw Primer. I seriously don't know what people were talking about. It's a very intelligent film, I understand, but it's also quite.
This is Shane Carruth.
Whoever. I love that. I love that movie. I don't know why people were saying that it's the most complex film.
You are a physics student.
It isn't that complex. What the fuck? It isn't.
Sir, some of us are not that.
Exactly.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, I'm happy not to check out the guy's work considering.
Considering,
whatever.
Yes. Considering.
So yes, it's fine.
That's not the art versus artist debate. We are not getting.
I mean, I've seen his work already, so I don't need to like read.
There are two. I'm sure you have seen his work.
Upstream Colors very
better.
Good.
Yeah.
No. Primer is also very good. I mean, anyways, why are we on Primer?
Nolan's Gravy Train is very.
Yes, you had said indie movies which sort of aren't sort of catering to the masses. In some way. But do you think I've always defended films and filmmakers who kind of marry mainstream sensibility with indie sensibility.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say indie films. I wouldn't say like even Beau is Afraid. In some extent, you can say it's kind of a mainstream film, not like hardcore mainstream film.
Which one?
But people.
Beau.
Beau is Afraid.
But it doesn't cater its intelligence to the masses.
Yes.
It doesn't make people think. It just the entire idea of making a film like Beau is Afraid is to make the
Americans are dumb. Okay.
Yes.
Continue.
It's like people don't the same dialogue in Tenet. Don't just try to understand, feel.
That's a Salman Khan dialogue. Fuck you. That's a Salman Khan dialogue.
दिल में आता हूँ समझ में नहीं.
दिल में आता हूँ समझ में नहीं. Fuck you.
Much better dialogue.
Yes, that sentiment though, I feel it's easier to follow through in a film like Memento rather than in Tenet. I feel Tenet is so caught up in the mechanics. I find it very hard to.
Memento is actually about feel it. Memento is not actually about feel the characters.
It's more about the human condition.
Also, his earlier films were not about the exposition. Even if you look at Inception, where he does the exposition in a walk and talk, it's still interesting. He's still doing something with it, right?
It's about the ideas. It's about the ideas. Yeah.
Where in Tenet, they first of all, if you want to do a walk and talk, I better be able to hear what the hell they're talking about.
Oh yeah. Jesus Christ, the sound mixing. Holy crap.
Like मेरे को traffic सुनने की जरूरत नहीं है.
Holy crap, WB, what the fuck were you thinking?
And then it's about getting caught up in your own, smartness that, I'll get away with it.
No, it's like you've researched without like filtering out what the research is.
I explained to Dhruv, right? I explained to Dhruv. I literally read an explainer on Tenet. After reading the explainer, I got confused. The movie is that bad. After reading the explainer only, I got confused.
I will say that the score because we've somehow gravitated towards Tenet. The score of Tenet is really sick. I really like this score.
Ludwig Göransson.
It's polarized. It's very polarized.
Oh, really? Okay. I thought the Ludwig
Tenet is really polarized. Like either people love it or either people hate it so much.
I love it. I love that score.
I really enjoyed it, and I'm now wondering if Nolan sort of saw that Zimmer is going the way of
Dune.
No, the way of Pritham.
The way of sand.
The way of sand. The way of Pritham. Yikes.
Pritham basically started that music group, right? Which now, if you ever put a remix song in one of Pritham soundtracks, he just credits the music to his music group.
Oh wow!
Essentially, yeah.
Oh.
Whereas
he learned from his mistakes.
Zimmer has always not reused, but like had those variations on a similar sort of track.
No, but if you look at No Time to Die, you look at Steve Mazzaro's credit on that film.
Oh yeah,
it's so prominent. You're wondering how much of, because that soundtrack is very mediocre. In fact, the best piece of music,
Sanjeev, that
the best piece of music in that film is from the final trailer, and that's not in the soundtrack.
Yeah,
and like it's such a great mesh of music.
I genuinely think the best piece of music in that entire No Time to Die are two tracks. Number one is that final track, in which Bond climbs up the ladder.
Spoilers for No Time to Die?
No, I'm not getting there. Don't worry. And the other one is the Cuba shootout. That
the good scene in the film.
Yeah,
the best portion of the film.
Gun barrel.
That movie is good.
Barrel.
Okay.
It's a good movie. I will contest anybody who says it's a terrible film. I'll agree the director is a terrible human being, but वो art artist वाला debate है.
Fukunaga, you're talking about Fukunaga.
But that was my thing.
भाई film line में कौन terrible नहीं है भाई?
अरे but Fukunaga का जो
अबे
वो आदमी दिखना चाहिए ना पहले कुछ करने के लिए. बाहर तो आए गुफा से. It took him 20 years after the first film to make his second.
No, second film to make his
second to third, yeah. And Thin Red Line took 10 years to make from the time the producers went to him.
But see, the point is when you take time to make films, people appreciate it. Now he made 3 films in a row and people started hating it.
Except for Adrian Brody, yeah.
Except for Adrian. This is a joke only that people who know about Thin Red Line will get. But yes. Anyways, no more Malick, no more whatever we are discussing. Chris Nolan, back to him.
If we are going to get back on track, here's the thing. I think that his 3 films are the closest. I think Nolan actually touched on Noir in a way. I think after he got into Batman, the Noir elements were automatically there, but his Batman became more of like a industrial crime genre, right? So
a lot of people, what I've heard at least, is a lot of Michael Mann comparisons to his Batman.
Especially Dark Knight. Dark Knight is very heat. Dark Knight is very
as someone
including Roger Van Zandt. Has anybody noticed that?
Yeah.
As someone who's not watched
why the blue color grading?
I know.
The blue color grading.
The navy, like the steel blue almost. Like
Yeah.
It's very evident over there.
Yeah. But
I've not seen much Man. So my only thing is
Heat, pretty much, and Collateral.
No. I was about to say my only thing is Manhunter.
Oh, again, blue color grading. Blue color grading.
Oh, very blue. Very blue.
Yeah, very blue.
Not as
again,
blue
which
as
one is favorite? Heat or Collateral? I love Collateral.
Heat. I'm not a big. I like Collateral, but Heat is
again, guys. Back to Nolan.
Yeah, sorry. I think
no.
Similar to what Amartya is saying is that it's also Nolan at his most. Okay, I'm willing to push the boundaries with unlikable characters like Pacino is so unlikable, really, in Insomnia, right? And sure, it's a beast from an earlier film, but after he becomes a part of the studio system, there is an aching desire to make these men more likable, to make even though they could be fairly unlikable guys.
I'm going to play devil's advocate. If after Insomnia your next movie is fucking Batman Begins,
Right.
How else are you going to make the character? You have to make him likable.
No, but I mean, even in sort of something like Inception or Interstellar, I would argue they are not necessarily
Prestige.
Great men, Prestige. But in Prestige, he's still willing to.
They are not likable.
He's still willing to present them as
I think
unlikable.
Bale is pretty likable in Prestige, from whatever I remember.
Alternate Bale. That's the
one Bale.
Yeah, one Bale.
For other references, you may check out Dhoom 3.
Yes, Christ.
By the talented gentleman who shares part of his name with Amartya.
Oh God, please don't remind me. Please don't remind me.
And also part of his name with Dhruv.
Yes.
Oh yeah, shit.
Yes.
We face palmed so hard when we got to know Amir. So we were like, there is that one meme, that one black guy is laughing and then he frowns.
Yeah.
In the next slide. So we had that same reaction, like Amir Khan is the next protagonist in Dhoom 3.
Yeah.
It's directed by Vijay Krishnacharya. Like, why are you doing this to us? Why this guy is making films?
Dhoom 3 is such a blatant rip-off of both Dark Knight and
Prestige.
Angry. It made me literally angry.
I laughed. That movie is hilarious.
The only people who came away from that film with any sort of reputation were the VFX guys and the cinematography.
Yes.
That was it.
Yeah.
And
Again,
in
guys,
fact, Sudeep Chatterjee's cinematography was great.
I know
Very
I
Bollywood.
made the digression, but we need to find a way to end this episode because I have no idea how I'm going to edit this together.
I think we can edit this pretty simply in that Nolan is such an accessible filmmaker that even mediocre to bad filmmakers are inspired by him to that. Even film bros are inspired by him to that extent. So
even
everybody,
a lot of film bros.
Yeah.
I have to digress here.
Yeah.
I read so when Tenet came out, so I forwarded this review to Amorsuda back then. So there was this one guy on Facebook. He wrote this opening line in his Tenet review that it goes like this: some films are rated A because of its explicit scenes and love-making scenes, as that he wrote. Nolan films should be rated I because it requires high IQ and it makes you intelligent. Tenet is one of the most complex.
You know what my reaction is when I read this type of stuff. My reaction is like that bully on the road. Hey, London, idhar aa.
Oh, look at me! I've watched a Nolan film. I'm so intelligent than this.
Which this is the whole. I mean, we can probably end on this note and then carry forward whenever we talk the second episode. But I feel this kind of. I'm not sure how much this chimes in with the whole Wes Anderson real thing recently, but I feel
they diluted the entire thing.
That's what I was about
to
say.
I'm so pissed off at this.
Of these films and film. I mean, because I don't think if you can realify at least for me, the emotional impact in a Wes Anderson film, or you cannot encapsulate the whole IIQ thing by
emotional impact and all the traumas that Wes Anderson films holds. It is different. That I get it. You don't have to show. But when you're showing a Wes Anderson trademark or in your reel, at least study the videos, man. Watch the YouTube videos. You're doing panning shots. You're doing zoom shots. Yeah, I mean, people I know, I don't know, I might share this podcast episode to my college friends. But there's one.
You should.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, because I might say something.
They will hate us.
Yeah, they will
not exactly kind. We are not exactly kind to them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They will kill me. Yeah. Please edit this.
I think the hilarious bit is Nolan is now known for making complex plots.
Complex ones.
I think
making masses intelligent, feel intelligent when they watch.
But
feel intelligent. I think more so than make them.
Feel
I mean, that's
yes.
the
but I think the main distinction here is that Nolan's aesthetic or Nolan's trademark was never that actually. Nolan's trademark was more like, how are you going to take genre properties and make them faster, make them more restless, make them show in a dimension which feels more, impactful every second of every moment. It's like taking a genre picture into chunks and making sure each and every chunk feels impactful.
Yeah, a lot of his films have like that like a old school Hollywood edge to them. They definitely do, because like, as you mentioned, like, I mean, this episode also, whatever we've recorded, sort of the 3 films we talked about are noir films in many senses, right? So I feel that old school Hollywood nature to his films is there, but I feel his filmmaking, of course, is influenced by, well, he has his own aesthetic, which is influenced by a couple of other filmmakers, I'm sure, but like, but it feels like he's tapped into something, I think, mostly productive with his editing. Tapped into something.
I think that's why Memento is his most closest crystallization of his entire filmography in a way, because that is the benchmark. That is what Nolan is. It's like every second, it's perfectly paced. It's like every second of the jigsaw puzzle, everything is a short film on its own. Every section impacts you hard. Each and every scene. However much of a minute it is. Because that's what Nolan can do. The closest thing he did it in a studio blockbuster again is The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is that one movie in which he did it. Each and every impact you will remember, because each and every chunk, each and every scene you will remember. That's what Nolan does. It was never about the complexity of the plots. Those are the ideas.
And you'll get and the other thing is, if you are finding them complex, honestly, listen to the dialogue. A lot of it is
all of those are explained.
Yeah, his films are too heavy on exposition, but he does the job of explaining what's happening.
Except
if
Tenet.
That is anybody's
except Tenet, I can guarantee.
Tenet is just a sound mix issue. It's
silent
movie.
Silent movie.
Dunkirk.
Put intertitles in the movie.
I think with Dunkirk, what he does is, it's a very simple concept, right? It's like, I'll show you 3, because that's the pace of war. At those, for the army, war is because you're moving on foot or on land vehicles. It's slower. By boat, it's slightly faster.
Here's the interesting thing. A connection between Following and Dunkirk works, right? A connection between Following and Dunkirk is, Dunkirk also has the same Following problem. You do not need the time jumping. You don't.
I always struggle with that, and I need to watch it again to clarify if I can make sense of it more. Like, why do you need that?
You don't need
I
the time
prefer
jumping.
it that way.
Exactly, but because he's much more capable now as a filmmaker. Before that, he was in Following. You actually get into the rhythm of it more easily than in Following.
A lot of people. I've only seen one film of this filmmaker, so I don't want to draw out this comparison. But a lot of, I think, scholars and all call his films Griffithian. This is T.W. Griffith, who made The Birth of a Nation most popularly, and other films also, which I've heard are incredibly good and don't have, the glaring problem that The Birth of a Nation does. So
understatement. Glaring problem is an understatement.
Yes, but I mean, it's an important film regardless of it being good or bad. So
true.
Or horrible or bad also, or horrible or whatever. It's It's a very important film, and I've seen that film, so I understand what people mean by the intercutting is something which is very central to Nolan's filmmaking. I think even in the films we've seen, but it kind of becomes more and more influential in other expansive films where he has to cut between actions in different places and different all that. So I think that's a very interesting influence that I think that exists there. But yeah, I think we've discussed more than enough of Nolan and a lot of other people, I think.
Nolan
Noir.
Yes, Nolan Noir. But this editing is going to be hard for me, but okay. Challenge undertaken. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned more about the films. Learned is probably not the correct word, but I hope you enjoyed listening to us talk about a lot of other films. I'll keep in some of the references we made to other films and filmmakers. I think it's what you said is correct. Like, he's someone who has had a big influence, who continues to have a big influence, for for good or for bad.
Yeah, I was talking with somebody about, like somebody recently saw Spielberg's Sugarland Express, and they were very impressed with Sugarland Express. They were like, "This movie is incredible. Why isn't people not talking about it? Did Spielberg peak in the 70s?" I'm like, with people like Spielberg and Scorsese, you can't say that they peaked in the 70s. They peaked every time in each decade. Each and every decade of them has a movie which can be considered a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I genuinely think that this is not, I don't think I'm calling this a hyperbole. Nolan has made 12, I think 12 to 12
Oppenheimer's,
films.
I think, going to be his 12th, if I'm not wrong.
Oppenheimer is going to be his 12th or 13th.
Yeah.
I think within 13 films, he has become one of the more consistent filmmakers alive. Precisely because even more than the ideas, I think his overall execution, his overall grappling of the form, it's incredible.
Anyone who I think is looking for inspiration in terms of filmmaking, maybe not
incredible.
Screenwriting, is like the whole distinction I feel people make, right?
I think more than the inspiration, it's about the passion. Nolan teaches the filmmakers how to be passionate about films. How to love films, how to extend all the boundaries, go across all the borders, just to make your scenes happen. Like, go make that happen. Carpe, it's like Nolan's films to Nolan is mostly like his carpe diem moments. Make it happen. Seize the moment.
But I also think that with that passion comes a sort of discipline in terms of the control he's got over making.
It's tremendous control
now,
and it's not just studio control. That the studios have sort of gone like, do what you like. Here's a $100 million check. It's also the fact that people like Fincher are very keen on ensuring that, because there's a lot of people who are passionate about films. Right? It doesn't mean they're good filmmakers. They're probably better film buffs than
Ed Wood.
So with
Nolan, Edgar Wright for a second. I was like, excuse me.
Ed Wood. I said Ed Wood. Don't worry. I'm not that much of a blasphemous person. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But with Nolan, you also see that carry. It goes through. He goes through with delivering on a film.
Yeah.
Come what may, it'll never be something that's by the books, that feels like AI, for instance. Now,
there are very few filmmakers who have this much control over their craft. The one other person whose control is impeccable is Spielberg.
No, you don't think Quentin Tarantino?
Tarantino is indulgent. Tarantino is indulgent. I'm sorry.
Okay, fair enough.
Tarantino is extremely indulgent. Like, control is.
But okay, fair enough. I understand what you mean.
Yeah. So I think Spielberg has impeccable control. You can't even imagine, like, West Side Story was a revelation to me. I was like, this guy makes his first musical and he makes it like this. How do you do that unless you have control over the craft? Impeccable control over the craft. I think even Scorsese has it to a certain degree. Scorsese has it. So
all of them have also dabbled in sort of different, genres and film styles, I feel. Most of them. Nolan hasn't done a romance, but I guess no one wants that also.
Nolan.
I think we'll see that in Oppenheimer.
You can make a romance. You can make a romance. You just have to know how to write your women characters first.
Yikes.
Or just
Carrie-Anne Moss was very good.
Carrie-Anne Moss was good, but that's Noir, right?
That's the high point of his, I think, writing for a woman character. Yes. Which is
he literally replaces a woman character in the middle of a trilogy and expects nobody to notice.
To be fair, that was Katie Holmes. You understand?
Oh yes. But Maggie Gyllenhaal is really good.
Maggie Gyllenhaal
is much better.
He's an improvement.
He's an improvement, 100%.
Okay. That's, I think, on that note, which is a very weird note, we should end this episode. But I don't know what note actually, considering I am the editor of this episode. So I will decide.
So let's just start the conversation from here on. Since you're doing Nolan.
Since you're doing Nolan, let's go there.
2 more hours of discussion, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this has been an informative and enjoyable discussion. You can follow, I have noted this down for once. You can follow Amartya on Instagram at Amartya25. Prithwish on Instagram. Do you want me to plug Prithwish? At little.lord_font.
Fauntleroy.
Fauntleroy, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And we will put everything in the description, so that'll all be there. And Varun, you can follow on Cinephiles Talk, right? Varun, you want me to plug that, or you want me to plug?
No, that's good. That's good for now.
Okay. And you can follow me at Terminal Cinema if you want to. Though, you know, the weird thing, my Instagram account, like, it deleted from my phone and I can't access it now from my phone. So it's basically useless. Anyways, that's TMI, I feel. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. And I won't say khatam. Because part 2 will come.
Let's start.
Welcome.
So,
part 2.
Yeah.
Or you can do the Memento.